Let's talk about these Concacaf World Cup qualifiers for June, guys. It's going to be a big and important month for a lot of these countries that want to make it into the 2026 World Cup. So, of course, I have to give you guys my predictions and preview for the most important games and the most important matches in every single one of these groups. Now, before I get into it, please leave a like down below if you want more Concacaf World Cup qualification content. We got a big summer plan for the Gold Cup and everything related to Concacaf, so make sure to subscribe if you're not already and leave a comment as to which team you guys will be following in this June's window. So pulled up next to me, I don't know if it's to my left or to my right, but we do have Group A, and we're going to go by group, and I'll put timestamps down below. So if you guys want to click ahead to a certain group, make sure to do that by using the time duration bar thing. I forget what it's called. Now, these are the June matches for Group A, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to cover every single game into perfect depth and quality just because in a footballing sense I don't know much about Cayman Islands or Antigua and Barbuda and things like that. I'm not going to lie to you guys like that. So I will cover the biggest matches while glancing over the smaller matches where the minnows of the group are going to be playing, so just so you guys know. So to start the things off, in June 4th, Bermuda and Cayman Islands will be playing against each other. Antigua and Barbuda will be playing against Cuba the following day. Cayman Islands will be playing against Honduras, and Cuba and Honduras, the two leaders of the group, will be playing their last games against Bermuda and Antigua and Barbuda. So this is a big window for both Cuba and Honduras, who do sit atop the group right now. And yes, Cuba is technically tied with Cayman Islands on points with 3, but I don't see Cuba faltering as much as the Cayman Islands would. And to have games against Antigua and Bermuda, they should be coming away with 6 points. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Cuba are just a level above those two opponents there, and they should be walking away with 6 points to finish the group on 9, and that should secure their qualification to the next round. Same with Honduras. They also sit already on 6 points through 2 games, and they are going to be playing as Cayman Islands and Antigua and Barbuda. These should be games that they win without a doubt. And honestly, without conceding a goal, they should be winning 5+ over both games. These are important games for Cuba and Honduras. I do think they're going to pull it out and win those games and make it to the next round. Truthfully, I don't really see an upset between any of those 4 games I just mentioned for Cuba and Honduras. They should be relatively easy games to help them secure the qualification. But obviously, it is important they don't get complacent because Cuba is still tied with Cayman Islands. Let's say Cayman Islands beats Bermuda, but let's say they do get that win and Cuba does get the win against Antigua and Bermuda. Cayman Islands would have to play Honduras and then win that game or get some points, while Cuba does have Bermuda to finish it off. So Cuba is very lucky they have this organization of games compared to the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands, if they really want to qualify, they have a really tough schedule to finish it off, at least against Honduras, which I don't see them beating Honduras. I don't see them drawing with Honduras. I think that's a win for Honduras, like almost no matter what. But if the Cayman Islands were to win that first game, they would have to do that to qualify. So let's wait and see what happens. But this should be ending with Cuba and Honduras securing their qualification for the next round of World Cup qualification. Now we move to Group B. Scroll down here to the June matches and some good games here as well. To start things off in Group B, we have Grenada and the Bahamas on June 4th. Trinidad and Tobago versus St. Kitts and Nevis, which I'm actually kind of excited to watch the game a little bit. Bahamas versus Costa Rica, St. Kitts and Nevis versus Grenada, and then Costa Rica and Trinidad and Tobago to finish things off. Now, Costa Rica and Trinidad, of course, sit top 2 with 6 points for Costa Rica and 4 for Trinidad and Tobago. I don't see them faltering again. Now, St. Kitts and Nevis do sit on 3 points just behind them, so maybe there's a chance here. Let's look at the organization of games. Obviously, Grenada plays Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, and St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, that is a big game. Trinidad and Tobago, without a doubt, are favorites for that game, and they should be winning it pretty confidently, I would say. Not to say those St. Kitts and Nevis may mount a surprise here. You never know, but Trinidad and Tobago are my favorites to win there. I do predict them winning, and as a result, that would put them 4 points above St. Kitts and Nevis, and I think actually that would guarantee their qualification to the next round. So as long as Trinidad and Tobago beat St. Kitts and Nevis in that first game, Trinidad and Tobago qualified for the next round of World Cup qualification, which I do think they want a lot. Now, Costa Rica already sit atop the group 3 points ahead of the third place position, St. Kitts and Nevis. So Costa Rica just need to win this game, even just tie this game against the Bahamas, and they should guarantee their promotion there, as long as Trinidad and Tobago defeat St. Kitts and Nevis in that first game. But Costa Rica, it's the Bahamas. Costa Rica are the clear out and out favorites here, and they should not be faltering against the Bahamas in this match. I expect it to be, I don't want to say a thrashing, but it should be a thrashing, to be honest. Costa Rica, I think, need to win this game 3-4-0 plus. This is going to be a good game for Costa Rica fans. I think there's going to be a lot of goals scored, and it gives a good opportunity for Piojo Herrera to really set the team up and get players that don't get opportunities too much to get into the fold here against that team. Now, we scroll down to the bottom, Costa Rica and Trinidad and Tobago. If all goes the way I'm expecting it to, this won't be as important of a match as people may think it is, but it's still a really important game for both sides, just because Costa Rica, obviously, you want to be sure that you're still in one of the top Concacaf positions against Trinidad and Tobago, whereas Trinidad and Tobago need this game to maybe kind of prove themselves that they deserve to be in the World Cup. Now, for me in this game, I do have Costa Rica coming out on top over Trinidad and Tobago, but not to say Trinidad and Tobago are that much weaker of an opponent than Costa Rica. They are perfectly capable of defeating Costa Rica here. Now, let's just see if they can actually pull it off or not. We move onwards towards Group C. These are the matches for June. You have Barbados playing against Aruba to start things off. Curaçao playing against St. Lucia, Aruba against Haiti, Haiti against Curaçao, and St. Lucia against Barbados in the end to finish it all off. So this is another one of those groups where it's an obvious top two at the top of the group. Duh. Curaçao sit on top with 6 points. Haiti does as well, but Curaçao sits at number 1 because of goal difference. And both of these teams should be leaving this window having won against St. Lucia and Aruba for sure. They're clear out and out favorites. St. Lucia and Aruba are obviously not footballing powerhouses when it comes to CONCACAF football. So both teams should be leaving this with 3 points from those games. Now, what's important though is they should be scoring as many goals as they can. Obviously, they want to be in the number 1 spot, both of them. And with Curaçao being there already, it's up to Haiti to determine whether or not they can overtake them by scoring as many points or goals as they can. I see them doing it. I see them getting 3 points, and I see them sitting atop again together. And I believe if they both win those games, they automatically qualify for the next round. So these are very important games. But then, and much like the last group, on June 10th, you have Haiti versus Curaçao. Now, this is going to be a good game for sure. Curaçao is good, but they're not as good as they used to be. To be honest, they have had a rough past few years, whereas Haiti are, I don't know if I would say on the up, but are in and around the top of CONCACAF for sure. There are a lot of people expecting Haiti to do very well in the Gold Cup in the upcoming, in their Group D, I believe, against the USA, Saudi Arabia, and Trinidad and Tobago. I believe it as well. Haiti should be finishing this group on top if they want to ascertain themselves. Now, this game would be the difference maker for them. Haiti versus Curaçao. Who will be the favorite there to win? I think it's Haiti. Who will win? I still think it's Haiti, but Curaçao definitely have a chance. This is another one of those games to watch where they're two pretty good opponents facing off each other. Now, again, it might not matter that much because if they both win those first games, they're already going to be qualified for the next round. They might not care as much, but still, this is going to be a good game to determine just how good these teams are relative to the playing field. Another storyline for this group is Barbados not having a single point yet. Will they get a point here against either Aruba or St. Lucia? Maybe. Honestly, I could see a draw against one of them. It's kind of amazing they haven't gotten one yet because, they've played Haiti, to be fair, and they've played Curaçao, so I take that back. They haven't really had an opportunity. They could get a win or draws against Aruba or St. Lucia. It unfortunately just won't be enough to move on to the next round, leaving them in whatever place they finish, hopefully, which is still going to be pretty good. Okay, that's halfway through the groups now. Let's move on to Group D. Now, this is where it's starting to get just a little bit juicy, I'm not going to lie. For Group D, starting on June 4th, we have Montserrat and Belize. Nicaragua and Guyana follow up the next day. Belize and Panama afterwards, Guyana, Montserrat, and then Panama and Nicaragua. So Nicaragua and Panama, of course, sit atop this group with Guyana following close behind. I don't think they're anywhere close to the level of Nicaragua and Panama, unfortunately. But these are important games. Nicaragua needs to beat Guyana more or less for Nicaragua and Panama's sake, just to put Guyana just that little bit backwards. But Nicaragua need that win if they want to move forward in that first place position. Whereas Panama play Belize, and again, I think Panama's the overwhelming favorite there. Panama need 3 points from that, again, to get that first place position in this group. Guyana have Nicaragua and Montserrat. They might win against Montserrat, to be honest, but against Nicaragua, I just don't see it. But I do think it's going to be a little bit closer than a lot of people expect it to be, unfortunately. Nicaragua are one of the top 2 teams in this group, both on paper and in the standings and whatnot. So they need to be winning these games just to ascertain that, because Nicaragua have not been up there with the rest of CONCACAF for a long time, unfortunately. They need to really make sure they go into this next round of World qualification with a good chance of making it out of that one and going into the World Cup. So I think the game against Ghana is going to be important to prove to the supporters and to the people who like CONCACAF and whatnot. But that last game here, Panama against Nicaragua, another one of those where I don't expect it to be that big of a deal breaker. And I see what CONCACAF is doing there. This is very obvious scheduling where they want that last day important match where it's just not happening. But still a very, very good game. Panama are still the favorites there, but Nicaragua need to come out with a fire and have a good opportunity at winning this game. I don't think they do personally, but I think they need to give themselves that. But this is Panama's group to win. This is Panama's game to win in particular, and they should be winning both of these games against Belize and Nicaragua with feeling really, really good, scoring as many goals as they can with very few conceded. I do see Panama leaving this with 6 points. I see Nicaragua leaving with 3 over Guyana. Either way, it's Nicaragua and Panama moving forward into the next round of World Cup qualification after this one. Now we have Group D, and of course, if you're a supporter and fan of this channel, you will know our bias towards Jamaica, so this is why it's really exciting. But this is also one of those where there's 3 top contenders to advance in this group, which you don't see that often in World qualification, and this is going to be the case for this one and the next group as well, so stick around. But let's go over these games. Dominica played the British Virgin Islands, which is probably the least important game of this whole window for this group. Guatemala played the Dominican Republic, which is a very important game, and I'll get to in just a sec. British Virgin Islands play against Jamaica, and then to finish it off, Dominican Republic play against Dominica, and Jamaica against Guatemala, which is the second most important game here. Now, to give you context for the group, Guatemala and Jamaica sit atop in first and second place, but Guatemala are overwhelmingly number 1 based off goal difference because it's 9-0. They have yet to concede a goal, and that's as a result of these 2 games right here. They were lucky to start with Dominica and the British Virgin Islands, and they scored 6-0 and 3-0 in the next one. So they're feeling really good in this World Cup qualification, but to play against the Dominican Republic after this might be a little interesting. The Dominican Republic unfortunately did lose to Jamaica in their first game, but did win 4-0 against British Virgin Islands, and they are one of these teams that may or may not be on the up, depending on who you ask. I think they are. They're bringing a lot of dual nationals in, especially from Spain and the Spanish leagues over there. So they are progressively getting better in comparison to Guatemala. Both of these teams have a good chance to make it to the next round of qualification, and Guatemala honestly would feel pretty hard done by if they don't because of those first 2 games and how successful they were. But they have 2 big games for Guatemala, and if you're a Guatemalan fan, I know you're a little bit nervous for this month because this is very nerve-wracking for the team. Like I said, the game against Dominican Republic, I personally cannot pick a favorite here. This is really hard. It's really hard because they are very evenly matched, I feel like. If I had to pick one, man, I don't know. I want to see Guatemala win, but I also want to see this kind of new brand Dominican Republic team do very well as well. So I'm not going to give you a favorite, but I guess this is a predictions video, huh? So if I were to predict, honestly, I'm going to give it to Guatemala. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it might be like a 1-0 or a 2-1 finish, but I think Guatemala can pull it out in the end. So I'm going to give it to Guatemala, and as a result, they're probably going to be advancing over the Dominican Republic. But that's how important this game is. This really determines who's going to move forward. If the Dominican Republic win, they will be tied with Guatemala on points after this. We'll still probably be behind them because of goal difference, but they will be tied, and then Dominican Republic have a good opportunity afterwards because they play Dominica in the end. But let's say that happens, Guatemala have to play against Jamaica and have to win that game by a lot of goals, to be honest, to ascertain their involvement in the next round. So Guatemala, they need to win this game. Dominican Republic as well, but Guatemala, I don't want to say the pressure is more on them because they both have different levels of pressure, but Guatemala need this game, and they cannot afford not. They could even draw and still be somewhat fine, but Guatemala, just to be safe, need the win, whereas Dominican Republic absolutely need this win, and if they do, they give themselves a pretty good pedestal for the next round. But let's talk about the next ones. Jamaica play against British Virgin Islands. I do think Jamaica win that. I mean, they should. If they don't, that's going to be pretty disappointing, especially when the Dominican Republic played against them and won 4-0, and then Guatemala played and won 3-0. Jamaica needs to be winning with a very similar scoreline here. They'd be pretty disappointing if they don't, and because Jamaica, I think, do need to finish top of this group for confidence reasons and just to ascertain that they're still one of the best teams in Concacaf. They need to be winning that game for sure. Then we move on to the last day, Dominican Republic and Dominica. I already briefly talked about it. If Dominican Republic win that first game against Guatemala, this game, I'm not going to say it will be easy, but it'll still be very important. But they have an easier important game if that matters. They need to be winning this game when it's all said and done. But then if they lose to Guatemala up here, it wouldn't really make that much of a difference anymore unless Jamaica somehow lose to British Virgin Islands. If Jamaica do that, Dominican Republic have a chance at advancing, but very slim still, but that would be their last chance if they lose that first game. Now, Jamaica and Guatemala, number 2 versus number 1 here. Again, a very important game, and it all really determines how this group is going to finish out. And it all really is still based off those first games. Like I said, Guatemala, Dominican Republic. If Guatemala lose, they're going to be playing their hearts out against Jamaica here. Not saying they won't, but if they already qualified by beating Dominican Republic, what's the point? So Guatemala have a chip on their shoulder here. Jamaica are luckily in a very good position. If they get 3 points for that British Virgin Island game, they really are just able to chill. As long as they see out that game and still perform well, it should be good. They really have nothing to worry about as long as they win that first game. But this game is still going to be very important and really real. And and will really determine the level of quality between these two teams. Now, Jamaica are still the favorites. They're the favorites to win the whole group. in my opinion. Obviously, like I said, our bias, we love Jamaica. They are one of a dark horses for the Gold Cup in this summer. So they need to be winning this game, whether or not they win their first game, or whether or not Guatemala wins their first game or not. Jamaica need to be winning this game for the sake of their team's confidence and performance and quality and whatnot. We got one more group for you guys, Group F over here, and we have a good another 3-horse race here. So we have St. Vincent and the Grenadines against Anguilla to start the group off. Then Suriname and Puerto Rico, which is a very important game. Anguilla versus El Salvador, and then El Salvador versus Suriname, another important game, and Puerto Rico versus St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So in this group, Suriname sit atop with 6 points, whereas Puerto Rico and El Salvador have 4 points apiece, and the other teams have 0. So St. Vincent and Anguilla are pretty much out of the realm of conversation for advancement here. But like I said, Suriname number 1, Puerto Rico 2, and El Salvador 3. This first game here, Suriname, Puerto Rico, very, very, very important for Puerto Rico's sake, more so. Suriname, you win this game, I believe you would guarantee yourself qualification to the next round. So Suriname just need to go out there and win this game. It doesn't need to be pretty as long as they get the result. Puerto Rico definitely need this game, especially because El Salvador are going to be playing Anguilla. Puerto Rico might feel pretty hard done by here because of the schedule, but unfortunately, that is the card they were dealt. They have to win that game against Suriname. So let's say they do win that game against Suriname. They do go a point above Suriname atop the group standings. El Salvador, let's say they will probably beat Anguilla. It would be pretty shocking if they do not. Will also tie with Puerto Rico atop and move Suriname down into third place, which would make that last day very interesting between Suriname and El Salvador. But I don't see it happening, too honest. If I'm being honest with you guys, Suriname, I think, need and can win this game against Puerto Rico. It is definitely their game to win without a shadow of a doubt. Suriname are one of the teams that we are kind of backing on this channel because we do think they have the quality to be a new top team in CONCACAF, especially because they are Indonesia 2.0. They have a very big backlog of players to choose from the Netherlands, the same way that Jamaica has from England. So they should be winning this game. And it'd be pretty disappointing, I think, if you're a Suriname fan to lose against Puerto Rico here for sure. But going off those predictions, if Suriname do win it, I believe they guarantee. And then the game against El Salvador won't really matter as much for them, but more for El Salvador. What's more likely going to happen is Suriname's going to win, get up to 9 points, and Puerto Rico's going to lose, staying on 4. El Salvador is probably going to win against Anguilla, move up to 7 points, and it's going to put Suriname and El Salvador in the top 2. But then, like I said, this last game is going to be very important for El Salvador because they would at least need a draw. I think a draw would guarantee their qualification moving forward. But let's say they don't. Let's say Suriname beats El Salvador, right? And Puerto Rico beats St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Depending on how many goals they score, Puerto Rico has a chance of, on that last day, getting above El Salvador, depending on how many goals they score. Like I said, as long as El Salvador loses that game against Suriname. Puerto Rico do already have a great goal difference. They are 8-0 in goal difference so far because of this particular game against Anguilla where they scored 8 against them and conceded 0. Now, they did draw against El Salvador originally, but that's why this was very, very important. And like I said, as long as El Salvador loses game against Suriname and Puerto Rico win against St. Vincent, Puerto Rico probably are going to be advancing to the next round of World Cup qualification. I don't know if that's going to be happening, and El Salvador, I think, would be very, very disappointed to miss out there, especially against Puerto Rico. El Salvador are 100% a better team against Puerto Rico. Now, that's no shade to my Puerto Ricanos out there, but El Salvador have been one of those teams that's just been on the cusp of greatness somewhat recently, or at least involved in that top 7, 8 CONCACAF teams here. And if they don't make it to the next round, it's going to be pretty disappointing. I don't think many people expect them to go to the World Cup, but at least making it to the next round would be the bare minimum for El Salvador. Whereas Puerto Rico, I wouldn't say you could be surprised, but this is what they've been gearing up for. They have been assembling their team very well with a lot of Spanish-based players, like I said, originally with, who was it? Who was I talking about? Dominican Republic. Yeah, very similar boat to the Dominican Republic over there. So Puerto Rico would feel very, very happy, very, very proud of making it to the next round. Now, same deal. I don't think many expect them to be in the World Cup, but at least making it to the last round of qualifications will be very, very, very huge. So everything is really in the hands of Puerto Rico here. If I'm being fully honest, I think it's Puerto Rico's. El Salvador, they do play against Anguilla, and maybe they score 8 as well. I don't know. I didn't watch the game. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe Anguilla had 3 players injured the whole time. I'm not quite sure. El Salvador, though, does need a big game against Anguilla just to help that last day. But Puerto Rico, and with how I expect it to happen, Puerto Rico have a good chance at moving forward here. So that's going to be it from me, guys, today. That was your preview and predictions for the June World Cup qualifiers. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below and leave a comment, your hot takes, what you expect to happen in this June window. And of course, subscribe if you want more Concacaf, World Cup qualification, Gold Cup, anything football, Premier League, I don't know, anything you want. Let us know in the comments down below and make sure to subscribe if you want first access to those videos moving forward. But I appreciate it. My name is Elijah. Hopefully we'll see you guys in future videos later. This was the Getting Football Podcast. I'll see you guys later. Take care.